The hardest cross for me to bear in my life is growing up as a gay child on Vancouver Island in a logging camp where it was not okay, and people harmed themselves when they came out or were teased relentlessly. And I'm of the age where I'm almost 70, and it wasn't okay to be gay in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, where it is now. Across that, I'm always attempting to shed off my back, and at the same time to be fully self-expressed with who I am. And in my view, someone's orientation has should have nothing to do with who they are. Orientation is orientation. And my sexual proclivity is no one's business other than my own. And I'm all about safe sex with people and respect and love and honor. And so to be free to express who I am is it's been challenging sometimes. And I'm up for it. Oh God, when I saw that question, excuse me, there's many things that I'm proud of that I've done. And the one that I'm the most proud of is I have a son. And that I could have stayed and not been with women. And it was really important for me to be with women, to have the experience. And also that I have a son from being with women is I'm really proud of that I didn't stick in a narrow view of, oh, I'm gay, so I can't be with women and create family around me. And from my son, I have 5 grandchildren, and I have 2 great grandchildren. And I'm really proud of that. And I have an amazing relationship with my son, who's 45 now, and also with my grandkids. And I'm so proud of that. So proud of that. That's one. I have many things, but that's the one. If I had to pick one, that's the one. The most impactful experience, well, there's 2. The first one was when I left home at 17 years old and I hitchhiked across Canada. And that was in 1971. It was the Trudeau government, and there was thousands and thousands and thousands of young people hitchhiking across Canada. It was the age of discover your country before you went to Europe. And we were a group of people like, no, we're going to discover Canada before we go to Europe, because I went to Europe after that. But first of all, it was really important for me to understand Canada. So I left Vancouver Island and I started thumbing across the country, and I made it as far as Halifax. Didn't get to St. John, Newfoundland, because there was a ferry strike and I didn't have the funds to fly there. So I saw my country. And at the time, there were so many people on the move that every town had a hostel in it for people to stay in, and a campground. And it was a work project that the Trudeau government put in place to create employment and to deal with all of these young people, thousands of them. Like standing on the freeway outside of Vancouver, there were hundreds of people. In Toronto, hundreds and hundreds of people. Banff, 1,000 people. Calgary, you name it. Every city, there was all these people that were standing in line, and we were all long hairs, and we were hippie kids, is what, we were known as hippie kids. And so the most impactful part of that was I stayed, and it was $1 a night to stay in these hostels. And if you didn't have $1, you could work in the kitchen or sweep the floor to stay there for free. So we were safe, we met community, we were known, we were experiencing our country. And everywhere from Nipigon, Northern Ontario had one in a church basement to downtown Toronto, to Niagara Falls. Everywhere were these hostels for $1 a night. So on my way, I went to visit my aunt, my cousins in Edmonton, and I had really long hair. And my aunt had said to me, "You're never going to get rides across Canada unless you cut your hair." I said, "Okay, Aunt, cut my hair." She cut it really short. And there I am standing on a freeway outside of Edmonton in the midst of hundreds of people. And I got picked up. I got the ride. And the guy, there was the hair. And the guy said, "Oh, all those long hair hippies, I'm not picking up them." And all the way across Canada, it was the same thing. My aunt was bang on. it was so impactful that I saw what opinions and points of view make available in the world. Like all these other people were just like me, but because their hair was long, they stood there longer. So I started traveling around the world after that. I went to Europe and I went to Central America, a lot of it on my thumb, the end of, hitchhiking and crossing borders into Belize. I was traveling with a character from Japan that had long hair, and he said, "I'm not cutting it." Well, they arrested him, and he got taken to jail where we got through the border. So I saw the impact of opinions and points of view on the world, and being attached to my hair that was very impactful at that time. That was what we call the distinction, attachment versus commitment. And I was committed to traveling versus attached to my hair. And I got that at 17 years old. So that was a very, very impactful experience. The cultural practice that I'd like to see it go out of existence is this whole thing of owning property, and then it goes up in value and value and value to the point now where, okay, great, only certain people are now able to own a house or an apartment because everything's so out of whack. And young people like my grandchildren, unless they win the lottery, are never going to be able to own their own home. So it's what I call a greed phenomena. That's there's the practice in Canada. We have more land than any other country in the world, yet our housing prices are higher than anywhere else in the world. It is like bizarre to me that our federal government doesn't create, you should be able to buy a home for $100,000 and the government backs it, be able to live in there. Yes, it doesn't have to be a fancy lakefront property, but this whole phenomena of owning property, and now we're seeing homelessness all over the place, drug addiction, mental health, and it's all got down to Maslow's theory of the basics of what is required to be a human being. The one thing of a home is out of whack. That is not part, everyone has a fundamental, I don't want to say right, the opportunity to have a home or a shelter to live in. And we've discounted that as a society. And we've become about, no, I'm going to own my own home and then I'm going to flip it in a year and make 100,000, 200,000. And now this is where we're at. So it's only going to get worse unless we address this. And what are we going to do about that practice of home ownership where you can flip it and make millions of dollars and someone else is displaced? The opportunity to have your own home is something I don't want to see go out of existence. And how do we actually have that happen? And there's something around, creating and generating your own home. Like it gives value for oneself. And that's an ancient practice, as that when we lived in tribes and there was 5,000 of us that traveled together in a group and we created a community, or 2,500, where we created a community. Well, we created home or shelter community for ourselves. And that I don't want to see go out of practice. And because everyone is valued on this planet. I value everyone. To have the security of a home creates a world that works for everyone. It's the practice of home I don't want to see go out of existence. Is the ability to move. We live in North America, in the Western world. So what's sacred and precious for me is, and I say this to people I work with, is there's a huge responsibility for that we can vote, that we can live in an economic zone where we can create wealth for ourselves, where we have food, and that is precious to me. We're not in areas where floods come through and kill 1,000 people. like in Indonesia from a tidal wave. We live in a very safe and secure, relatively, in the world compared to a lot of places. And that is so sacred to me, the opportunity that we have in Canada, particularly. And it comes at with a huge responsibility. Who are we being with all of this? Are we taking this for granted? Are we, do we think we have a right? Because I don't live in the world of right either. I don't have a right to anything. I only have an opportunity. And to me, that is sacred and precious, the opportunity that I have to be a citizen of Canada, to be operating at my highest capacity. And to me, that's precious. And I'm not about to squander that with the use of drugs, alcohol, things that undermine who I am at the level of myself. The other thing that's really precious to me is the opportunity to practice my spiritual beliefs of the forest, as well as JC, the Buddha, any person that forwards and has given us information to be our fullest self, to be fully self-expressed in the world, is precious to me, Farah. I'm so moved by it, like, not to squander the opportunity to be related to our spiritual practice of reverence for whales, reverence for eagles, reverence for hummingbirds, reverence for my dog, and respect as well, and respect for the ancients that came before us through the practice of what Jesus, what the Buddha, what Muhammad, what Shinto, what spiritual practitioners had said long before us. And to me, that is extremely precious, to adhere to the knowledge and to share it as well as to our greatest capability. So I didn't realize I was going to get that moved by that question. I grew up very unsafe, and there was a lot of threats. You know, as a closeted gay child, I was terrified to come out. People hurt you if you did that. And as a child, I remember walking down the beach. I lived on the ocean, and me and my dog are walking down the beach, and I was scared out of my wits. And I felt a hand in mine. I know it's cliche, but it wasn't to me. It was Jesus saying, "You're okay. You're with me." And then I went on, discovered the Buddha when I was traveling, what the Buddha had to say. And my spiritual practices of adhering to the teachings of Jesus and the Buddha, because the two of them to me are synonymous. I mean, apparently the two met at some point and shared information, from what I gather. And Mohammed as well. Mohammed had very similar teachings. All three of them were around the same time and very clear around the directions for humanity. And what that's brought me is a sense of that I'm safe in this world. Whether I'm killed or not, I'm still safe. My life is to live it to the fullest. Know that your time is limited on this planet as a human. Have your heart be in front of you versus hiding it. That's what I've learned from my spiritual practices. Like, put my heart out there. People used to say to me, "Well, you're like a bad thing. Like, you wear your heart in your sleeve." I'm like, well, duh. Why wouldn't you, have people know that you love them? Why wouldn't you? And that's what I've learned from Jesus and the Buddha. My biggest fear with them is absolute societal collapse. Amount of greed that's out there right now, and certain elements of humanity where too few people have too much money and too much influence. And it's a repeat of the Russian Revolution, and it's a repeat of the French Revolution, and other revolutions that have happened before that, English one in the 1600s. We keep repeating the same thing, and then the food disappears, and social influence gets changed dramatically. All for what? So someone can own a house that's worth $50 million? Like, it just is bizarre to me. Displace a bunch of other people so that I can live in a $50 million house. And like, what in the world is that? And I have fear about that. The societal collapse will come, the impact of that's going to have on the environment, on our children, our future generations, when it's so unnecessary to me. It's just so unnecessary. And at the same time, I also believe that the earth will take care of itself, and has done many times. I have a strong faith in Mother Nature that eventually, COVID was like, well, you guys want to, pardon my French here, but they don't say this in French, but pardon my English, we keep fucking around, and the earth goes, oh, okay, here's COVID for you. Deal with this. And you're not getting it, you're still fucking around. Well, we're going to give you more till you actually wake up here. So I have a lot of faith in nature, and nature will take care of itself and deal with us as humans. We're very insignificant when it comes to what is actually there. So it's an interesting question, because I have the fear of my grandkids being their opportunity wiped out. At the same time, the opposite side of that is, well, no one gets out alive anyway off this planet. Our time is all limited here. So I'm also ready for it if Mother Earth says, no, I'm going to change the polar electrical fields, and North Pole is going to be South Pole, and the Earth's going to flip, and everything that's light's going to fly off. Well, so be it. So be it. If we all fly off into the universe, out into space, so be it. And it's a very interesting question. I read that because out of fear and chaos comes order, because I don't live in the world of fear. At the same time, I get that fear is a place to be informed by what's potentially coming our way. It's a survival mechanism. And hey, if I'm one of those people that survive, 6 billion being wiped out from the earth shaking or floods, or imagine the earth actually flipping, that water on the planet would wash over the whole planet, wiping out the majority of humans, which is done, by the way. The scientists are proving that the earth has flipped more than once. So that's one way to deal with us all, is the earth to flip its magnetic north to south, and nature would survive. It's just water washing over trees that have roots, and it's an interesting thing. So I have a fear about that, but I also have a relief about it, that it's the earth will prevail. What has made this life worth living is that the love I have for my family, first of all, for my dog. I just love my dog, and it's worth it to me every day. She takes up a huge part of the bed. She's a Belgian Malinois, so full of character, personality, understands English, speaks, she has her own language. That, to me, to be able to interact with another sentient being from humans who I love, and to interact with a sentient being called a dog or a cat, or look at an eagle in the sky, or see a whale swim by, which I've had these experiences, or see a hummingbird at a flower, or plant my garden and watch flowers grow and water them, has been so worth it to me. And to be able to tell people that I love them is worth it. It's all worth it. And the human experience is, I chose it. I'm crystal clear. I chose this life in this time with my parents. So that's been worth it as well, to get to that point where I made it all wrong for what happened. And then to transform that to, I chose this life. I chose my dad. I chose my mom. I chose love over fear, has been so worth it. all of it. So to answer the question, all of it's been worth it. Everything, every experience, whether hard, easy, loving, angry, to live a life as, I think who said it was the Buddha said that life is for the experience. So whatever experience you have is got to be worth it because it happened. So I live from that viewpoint that no matter what is going down, it's an experience. So let's embrace it to the fullest what it is. We don't have to like it. It is an experience, however, and best embrace it. So this life has been worth it, all of it, everything. I could go on for an hour about that or more.